Hello friends, welcome to another video. It's funny again, this video is all about calculation groups. But in this video, we are going to look into how we can make use of field parameters and calculation groups together. There are a lot more videos on field parameters, what they are used for, and calculation groups are really can achieve a lot, unlock a lot of things which otherwise not possible out of the box. But in this video, we're gonna look into how we can make field parameters and calculation groups work together. Let's get to Power BI and take a look. So this question was posted on Power BI community forum actually. And the ask was, a user wanted to change the granularity on a visual when users select a month to date or quarter date and year to date. For example, when users select month to date, wanted to change the granularity by date or by week. When user chooses quarter to date, you want to change the granularity here on a visual on rows, in this case matrix value, by month. And when user look at the year to date, you wanted to see the rows, the quarters on the rows, and then see the year to date. What I did here is I just created a calculation group called time intelligence. This is what the calculation group is, and it has 3 calculation items. And those 3 items are month to date, quarter date, year to date. Let's quickly just, I'm not going to go into details about what the DAX and all the stuff, and assuming that you already know how calculation groups work. So here I have this time intelligence calculation group, and the name of the column in that is period. And I have 3 calculation items, month to date, which is simply whatever the measure we use on the visual, the selected measure. We will use that measure and then use dates mtd function. Similarly, qtd, we will do the same. We will use dates qtd and year to date. Why I use calculation groups? Because we can use any measure on the values and then apply the month to date, quarter date, year to date calculations on top of that. So so far so on, this is working perfectly fine. So here I use a slicer. So if you look here in the visual, right now I'm seeing I think it is let's see, we're using the quantity on the values. Let's use actually sales, so it's a little bit more easy to use. So let's use sales. So what I have here is if I'm using month to date, now we are on x-axis, what, or on the rows, what I have the month name, on the columns I have year, because we are comparing sales for each month over year, and in this particular case. And when we're using month to date, everything is fine because each number is, it's giving us the month to date, because we're looking at the month granularity. If I go to quarter to date, what is happening, our month stays as it is, and then the January has 481 in 2018, then 959, so this means 481 plus 500,000, which was in February. So January, February is now sum of February is sum of January and February, and March is sum of January, February, March, and that's the first quarter. And then the second quarter starts, and then reset. April is the April sale, and so forth, so on. And similarly, if we go to year to date, this is kind of a running total in this case, the first month, and then this is January, February, this is January, February, March, and when we are in December, so this is the total sale for 2018, that's January to December. So all this works fine, but again, as I said, the ask here is to change the granularity. Instead of the month name, which is always fixed, we wanted to change, in case of MTD, we want it to be week or date, and in case of QTD, we want it to be month, and in case of YTD, we want it to be quarter. Field parameters allow us to do that. That is one of the biggest feature of the field parameter, is that we can dynamically change the x-axis or the value on the rows in this particular case, because we're using the matrix visual. So what I did is I already created a field parameter. Again, if you haven't used field parameters, and there are a lot of videos. I also have a video on field parameters, top 3 use cases of field parameters. I will put the link of that video in the description of this video. Do check out that video. So I created a field parameters. I think what I called it, let's take a look here. I called it a parameter. I think I actually called it period. So what I have is in this field parameters. So I created 3 items in here. Month to date, I call them month to date. Why I call it month to date is similar to what name I given in the calculation items in the calculation groups. So right now here we are looking the calculation items from the calculation group. If I click on this, you can see this is coming from time intelligence table, which is a calculation group table. But right now we are at the period. So this is what I created. I created 3 items in calculation in the field parameters. So the first one is MTD. So then again, this is a name of what I want, week number as text. That's another column from my calendar dimension. For QTD, because I want to, why I use week number as a text. So what I want is when month to date is selected, I want to see the week number. And then for when I'm selecting QTD, I want to see the month name. So that's what column I'm using. And when I'm using YTD, again, these labels can be anything, but right now these names are the same. MTD, QTD, and YTD is the same as the names in the calculation items, and I will show you why this is important. So this is the simple calculation, again, a field parameters. And let me just show a quick use case of how this field parameter will be used. Let's make a duplicate of this page. Quickly duplicate page, and what we can do here is on let's remove this period for now, this slicer for now. And what we can do here is what we need to do is on metrics visual, instead of the month name which we used on the rows, we will use the column from the period, the new field parameters what we created. So that's a period. And also I'm going to use this period as a slicer, and I will show you why. Because we want to select one option at a time, whether we want to see month to date, quarter date, and year to date. So I'm going to change it to single select. So now I have a month to date. So if you see, if I'm using month to date, I'm seeing week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and up to 53 weeks, because that's what we put in our field parameters, that when I select month to date, which is a label showed in the slicer, what I want to see as my values on the rows, which I want to, when I'm month to date, I want to see week. And let's go to QTD, and I want to see January, February, March. And when I'm YTD, I wanted to see my quarter. So this is working perfectly fine. So if this is working fine, what's the problem? So right now, if you look at the YTD, I really wanted to see my x-axis or my rows to be quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, but I want this to be year to date. So first quarter, second quarter will also include the sum of first quarter, and the third quarter will be sum of first, second, and third, and fourth quarter will be sum of all 4 quarters. If we go back to our original page here quickly, and if you look at the year to date, look at the month of December, the total value is 7.2. And but if we go our duplicate page, look at the Q4, which is December, and right now this is giving me the Q4 sales, not the sum of all the quarters in that year. And the total is perfectly fine, but at the quarter level, at that granularity, we are getting a sum of the quarter. When we are looking at the QTD, we are not getting like the January, February, March. If you look, this is giving us January sales, February sales, and March sale. Whereas when it is QTD, we want February sales should include January sales, and March should be January, February, March, and then from April it reset again, and April is a quarter, first month in quarter two, and so forth, so on. So the granularity is changing right now, but it is not changing the calculation QTD and YTD. So the one way to solve for that is that we put another slicer from our time intelligence, and again make it in a slicer, and also make it as a single select. So now when I'm in a month to date, I want to make sure I've selected month to date. So then it, as you can see, now it is working. This is first week, second week, third week, fourth week, and then the month resets, and then the calculation restarts. When I'm QTD, now this granularity change, I also have to make sure I select the QTD in my calculation groups time intelligence, and now this is working perfectly fine. And when I'm YTD, and I have to click YTD here as well to get the correct result. So this is working fine. But the problem with this is not something practical to use. That user has to first select the granularity using the field parameters, which is MTD, QTD, YTD, and then also have to pick up the respective calculation item in the calculation group as well. So practically this is impossible to use. So the final solution, what we want it to be, when I select a period in my field parameters, which changes the granularity, it should automatically also use the respective calculation item from the calculation group. So how we can do that? So we want to keep one slicer, let the user use one option here, and then automatically it switch the granularity, which is now working, and automatically it should switch to the calculation item or respective calculation item in the calculation group. So I'm going to remove this calculation, the slicer from the calculation group. We're going to keep only one one slicer here. And what we're going to do is, based on the selection here, we are going to force the calculation in the calculation item for the time intelligence. So how we're going to do that? Let me show you. So we're going to add one more calculation group to apply the force our calculation items based on the selection in the field parameters. So let's go to tabular editor and add again, you can name whatever you want, but I'm going to call it, let's call a calculation group, I'm going to call it apply field parameter. Let's keep it apply field parameter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this as well to apply field parameter, and I'm going to add one calculation item called yes, and I will show you how this is going to work. So here what we're going to apply a logic. The first logic what we need to do in here is we need to find out what option has been selected in the field parameter in the slicer, which we just using to change the granularity. So there are a lot of blog posts in how to get the value, the selected value of the field parameters when they are in the slicer. I will put the link which I used from the SQL BI guys. I used their method to get the selected value. I will post the link in the video. Do check out that blog post. But here is what the code is going to look like. Let me get the code from my another monitor. So what we're doing here is we're going to say is we are storing the value in a selected parameter. What we're going is we are summarizing our field parameter. The period is the name of the table for the field parameter. This is the column what we see, MTD, QTD, YTD, and this is the field. So we are summarizing on that, and then we're getting the max value. Because this is a single select, we will always get one value. So this will return whatever the option has been selected on the slicer for the field parameter. It could be month to date, quarter date, YTD, so those three options. So now once we have this, what we can do is we can further write our calculation here in field parameters. So we're going to go to calculate, and first we're going to go the selected measure. And why we're doing selected measure, whatever measure is using on the we are using on the visual, just apply this logic on that. So selected measure, and what we're going to do is we are going to call our calculation group item. So time intelligence is a calculation group, and the column in that is period. So we're going to say is period is equal to selected parameter. So what does this means? So first of all, let's take a quick look. So if I have selected QTD here in the slicer, which is coming from the field parameter which we created, so this variable selected parameter is going to give me QTD. And in this portion here, what I'm saying is you use the selected measure, whatever the measure used on the visual. In this particular case, we're using sales measure. Then selected measure time intelligence period, which again, time intelligence is a calculation item, calculation group, and the column in that is period. So we are saying is in the calculation group for the column period, where value is equal to the selected value. What does it means is, what we're saying is time intelligence period, which is QTD, is equal to the selected parameter. If QTD is selected, then this will force the calculation item what is we have selected in the field parameter. If I selected QTD, it will force this calculation item, and if I selected MTD, this will force this calculation item. So in these calculation items, we have our business logic, like how we want to calculate. In MTD, our business logic is dates MTD, and in QTD, our business logic is QTD. So basically, in apply field parameter, we are saying whatever the field parameter value selected in the slices, force that in the calculation items, force that selection in our time intelligence calculation group for that particular selection. So this now depending on what we have selected, this will work perfectly fine. So let's apply these changes and see it in the action. So right now nothing will happen because we haven't forced that. Everything is still the same, and it's just changing the granularity but not the calculations. So if I bring my new calculation group, I think I have to refresh because I added a new calculation group. So if I go apply field parameter, I bring that as a slicer, and right now it has only one option, yes or no. So if keep an eye on this, so we have YTD selected, and we are seeing everything by quarter because that's what we said. When we select YTD, we want to see by quarter, but we want to see the running total or the YTD total. As soon as say apply yes, what happens is this calculation is now changed. As you can see, 1.4, 3.3, and it's increasing now. If I apply, if I say don't apply, then we see quarter 1 sales, quarter 2 sales, quarter 3 sales. But when I say yes, now we're seeing the running total. Similarly, if I go to quarter to date, I'm seeing each month sale. But as soon as I say apply field parameter, and what it is doing is now I'm seeing a quarter to date sales. The first month of the quarter, the second month shows the first plus second, and third month first, second, third. So basically this particular new calculation group is taking the use of the selected field parameter value and forcing the time intelligence calculation group and applying and then giving us the calculation. We don't need to use this as a slicer here. What we can do is we can remove this from here and then use our apply field parameter filter on this page, and we just simply say yes, right? We have forced it to be selected, and then we can hide it so the user doesn't know when we publish it in service. And now here you go. So what will happen after this, depending on, so now what is happening when we're selecting month to date, our granularity is changing to the week, and we are getting the month to date sales. And so week 1, week 2, week 3 is a running total happening, and it's resetting at every month. And similarly, when we're in quarter to date, we are getting the each quarter date sales, and then it's resetting when the new quarter starts. And similarly, when we are year to date, our granularity is changed to quarter, and the running total is year to date. Again, this is a kind of a corner use case, maybe not something commonly used, but again, with the field parameter, with one single selection, we are able to change the granularity, and at the same time were able to force the calculation we wanted to apply. So we took advantage of calculation groups and applied the force the calculation groups based on the field parameter selection. Now the reason we use the calculation group, because we right now we're using the sales measure. If we drop the quantity measure, the same logic will work, or any other measure we use, the solution will work. Again, this is something I find very useful, and I think I see this as an opportunity to do in my reports as well for my clients. Let me know what you guys think about this. Did you ever came across this situation and how you solve it? And I find it very interesting way to solve how we can take advantage of field parameters to change the granularity and calculation groups using with single selection and force which calculation group item to use, and then mixing those two together give us the final solution. Let me know what do you think about all this. Until next video, have a great day. Do subscribe my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.